Today is Wednesday, August 9th in the sports world, and today it is I've not heard that much news in the sports world today, so we're just gonna do a quick stream here while I have time. Obviously, I missed yesterday, but we do have quite a lot to talk about here that we missed. Uh, Obviously, yesterday I heard that the conference realignment news has taken another turn with the ACC now trying to get in here and trying to basically survive, trying to take the rest of the Pac-12. Obviously, I've heard Stanford, Cal, and possibly SMU to the Atlantic Coastal Conference, which I mean, when you really think about it, conference-wise, it it makes at least decent sense, except for California. But Stanford-wise, it makes a lot of sense because they're on the coast. So, and I mean, yesterday I was watching Jack Crane, I think it was, and he said that conferences, they mean what they mean. They're supposed to be what they say they are. Conferences, right? So when you think about what's going on in conference realignment today, it's basically it's basically getting rid of the fact that conferences exist in the first place. And I really love that he said that because it's so true because yeah, I mean, that's really what makes conferences is the at-home rivalries like Ohio State, Michigan, just those type of rivalries, just having to go in your backyard. Obviously, I'm an Auburn fan, so I hear crap from Alabama fans every single day here in Alabama, but that's besides the point. I think it's getting to the point nowadays where it's all about the money. So nobody really cares if conference realignment is basically unrealistic. Nobody cares about that. We're basically playing an NCAA football video game right now where you put Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State in the same conference and say, let's see who wins the national championship. Um, so, I mean, it really doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. But, I mean, at this point, what's done is done, and the damage to college football, it's gonna be relevant in the next couple of years. It's gonna affect the way people look at things and say, hey, that conference is much harder than this conference. So, let's throw a two-loss freaking Michigan team in there because they lost to USC and Ohio State. So there's no such thing as a good loss in the NCAA. Um, I feel like it all comes down to who you think is the best team, and if you think that's the best team, put them in the college football playoffs. So, um, it just really it's gonna become a thing where obviously we're expanding to 12-team playoffs next year. So, in 2024, you got to think about it. SEC is gonna get 4 teams in probably. Big Ten's probably gonna get 4 teams in. So what's really left after that? The Big 12 maybe get 2 teams in, but after that, you really got to think what is really different. Other than, I mean, it's just gonna be Power Five teams again, and I feel like they expanded the playoffs, so it would be a little bit more fair to non-Power 5 teams that they would actually have a shot to get in. But now, I mean, when you really look at it, we might need to expand to 16 teams, or I mean, even 20 teams before we really see like a major gap in like appearance wise in the Power 5 and the non-Power 5 conferences. All right, I'm gonna pick up where we left off our SEC East predictions now. So obviously yesterday we did we did our SEC West predictions, but I didn't have time to do our SC East predictions. So we're gonna go ahead and sneak that in here while we still have the chance. Um, Obviously, everybody expects Georgia to win the SEC East. I don't think it's that simple. I think Tennessee is gonna give them a run for their money this year, and I know they don't have Hendon Hooker anymore. But I mean, when you really think about it, Joe Milton, he could be better, much better, honestly, than how good Hendon Hooker was this last year. And I mean, when you really think about it, there's not really a massive gap between the two aside from defense. I mean, yeah, Tennessee struggles with defense, but I mean, I think this is Tennessee's like coming of age basically. I feel like this could be a make or break year when it comes to talent wise for them because they are loaded and I don't think there's a better team. I don't think there's a team with a better shot to put the hammer on Georgia this year than Tennessee. Obviously Georgia's schedule isn't like extremely difficult, but I mean, they do have a couple tough teams on the schedule there with exceptions to obviously Ball State, UT Martin, and Georgia Tech. But I mean, when you look at it here, Tennessee and probably South Carolina is probably going to be your best bet to beat Georgia this year. So let's get into the predictions here. Week 1, they faced UT Martin. That's a win for them, easy win. Um, Honestly, last year Georgia really did look unbeatable. I mean, there wasn't a team in the world that could stop them, and that national championship just really set the pavement basically for how good they really were, blowing out TCU in the national championship game 65-7. And I mean, really, I'm not going to say we expected that, but I mean, we expected TCU not to be so good in that game, since they're the number 4, they were the number 3 team, obviously. But when you look at it, the fact that TCU really did beat the team in the playoffs that year, I'm not really sure what team it was. I forgot already, but I think it was like I can't really remember here. It was Michigan. The fact that they beat Michigan that bad, well, not really bad, but the fact that Michigan had no chance to win at the end, it really just was very surprising to me, given the fact that Michigan really did look like the best team in the college football playoffs basically all year around next to Georgia. I mean, when you really look at it, Michigan was the number 2 team. So when you look at it, it was just really shocking TCU getting like spanked like that. And I don't know that anybody can really beat Georgia this year. So, I mean, I think they go, let's see, 13-0. How many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think they go 12-0 in the regular season. And I just don't see a game on the schedule where I'm like, dang, well, that's definitely a loss. And, I'll see that for Alabama for at least one game. Uh, I just really don't see any team beating them right now. Maybe after we get like a little look, after they get their first test, which is South Carolina, um, maybe they look a little bit more sketchy. Obviously, they don't really know who their quarterback is right now, with Carson Beck being probably the second guy there. Gunnar Stockton, obviously Brock Vandegrift, the 5-star recruits there. But I definitely don't see Georgia losing a game this year. I think they're probably the strongest team in college football right now. And until a team can go out there and give them a run for their money, I don't see that changing for quite a while, honestly. I think the only game they possibly lose, or even could possibly lose, is a college football playoff game or the SEC championship game against either or Bama or LSU, which, by the way, a lot of people are sleeping on LSU this year. I don't really know why, given the fact they beat Bama last year, and they basically returned the same team and even better. I mean, obviously Harold Perkins on the defensive end is coming back. Obviously, he's going to have another year probably. He's going to the NFL one of these years. He's going to be a top 10 pick. Obviously, Jalen Daniels, who I think is one of the best quarterback prospects for this upcoming class, uh, dual threat wise, but I'm not really sure that NFL scouts see him as NFL ready yet, given the fact that before this he was at Arizona State. But just seeing that last year, them just stomping Alabama like that, obviously credit to Brian Kelly for the play calling at the end. But I mean, I see them being as difficult as anybody to beat this year. So I've got Georgia at 12-0, and now we move to the Tennessee Volunteers. Obviously last year was probably like a dream year for the Volunteers. I mean, it doesn't get any better than what they did to Clemson, who they don't like. Clemson doesn't like them very much either. I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but it sure as hell did look like a rivalry. And I talked about this a bit the other day, but the turnaround, I mean, the turnaround for the Tennessee Volunteers, you got to realize, I mean, before this, Tennessee was bottom barrel. I mean, they weren't winning crap. I mean, they went 5-7, 3-7, and then 7-6 for a couple of years there. Obviously, hence the Jeremy Pruitt era, which that turned out really bad. But um, I honestly see this Tennessee Volunteer team being one of the best teams in the nation. I think when it's all said and done, they're a top 10 team. I could probably see them losing to like maybe Alabama and Georgia. Um, I see them beating Alabama this year, but I think record-wise, I think 11-1 in the regular season is not so far-fetched than people think it is. Um, I think they probably drop when they don't need to drop, but I definitely see them going like probably 10-2. I could see 10-2 in the regular season, dropping probably Alabama and Georgia. But yeah, Tennessee definitely looks like a 10-2 team. I mean, obviously they look really good, and I'm not saying they aren't gonna be good. I think when it's all said and done, they will have a chance to be in the college football playoffs. But I think they lose to like maybe South Carolina, kind of skidding early in the season, and then they pick up momentum again and beat Alabama. Obviously lose to Georgia, and then win the rest of them. So I see Tennessee is probably a New Year's Six Bowl type of team, but I mean, you never know. When you really think about it, anything can happen in college football, so you can never really say this is going to happen or that's going to happen because it's all so surprising sometimes. All right, next up is Shane Beamer's South Carolina Gamecocks. Uh, Last year was really like tip of the iceberg for them, being in that Gator Bowl and just barely losing to Notre Dame, almost winning there. But I mean, it doesn't get better for this team, it has only been good for this team so far. And obviously, Spencer Rattler has been so good. I mean, upsetting who was it? Tennessee, I think it was, and then when upsetting Clemson on the road. I mean, everyone was shocked at how they beat Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee being the number 5 team last year. Obviously not with Hendon Hooker. So I mean, it doesn't devalue it though, because they didn't just go in there and win. They went in there and absolutely smacked a team that was on the verge of being in the college football playoffs and just barely missing. Um, South Carolina, Shane Beamer has them headed to a possible New Year's Six bowl this season. I definitely could see them winning 9 games this season, maybe even 10 games. I mean, I really do see them having a pathway open to a 10-win season, but they're going to have to win a lot of tough games, and I just don't see them beating Georgia this year. Um, I mean, I think they'll give them a run for their money, obviously. Shane Beamer's offense has been so good recently, but I just really don't see that happening. But when it comes to winnable games, this schedule, I mean, it's really tough. I mean, they have North Carolina, which is going to be a really, really tough game, in Charlotte, which is basically a home game for North Carolina. So, um, they also have, I think it is obviously Clemson. They play them every year. But having to play at Texas A&M, at Tennessee, and at Georgia is going to be an absolute, like, it's going to be hell for them getting through those games. If they can pull maybe 2 wins out of those, I see them exceeding expectations and going to like the 10-win mark. If they can pull 2 games out of that, those 3 I just named, they're in really, really good shape for 10 wins. So I see them beating North Carolina, Furman, losing to Georgia, 2-1. I have them 3-1. I see them beating Tennessee 4-1, Florida 5, 6 Missouri, 7 Texas A&M, 8 Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt 9, 10 with Kentucky, and a loss to Clemson. So 10-2. I mean, I really see it. I mean, I'm buying into the hype for this year's team, because I mean, obviously Spencer Rattler, the Oklahoma situation didn't look great on him. But he really went out last season and proved all the haters wrong and proved that he could be uh, a 3-year franchise kind of guy for them. And obviously, this is probably going to be his last year before we see him head off to the NFL. So I think he leaves it all on the line and has a nearly Heisman caliber season. I mean, I just really see the SEC East is just growing depth wise. I mean, past South Carolina, obviously, I don't really see many teams doing good in that conference, in this side of the conference, but South Carolina has got some great, great potential, and if they use it, I think they see themselves in a New Year's Six Bowl this coming season. Next up is Kentucky. Um, Obviously, getting Devin Leary was a big boost in confidence for them. Obviously, losing Will Levis, who I really didn't think really moved the throttle for them that much. I mean, obviously, I'm not dissing on Will Levis here. I think he's great. I mean, he was great in college, but the interceptions he thrown just were really, really questionable. But having Devin Leary this season is really going to benefit them because I feel like he puts them to the next level. I feel like he makes them a difficult team to beat, offensively wise. Defense, I mean, you never really know. They have JJ Weaver, which is really good, but Aside from Weaver and probably Jordan Lovett, I don't really see their defense doing much of anything against any team. So their schedule's ranked hashtag 19 here on Phil Still's college football preview, but uh, I think probably have them winning Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron. Um, I'm gonna say they pick up a loss to Vanderbilt, 3-1, 4-1, Florida, 4-2 at Georgia. Uh, 4-3 versus Missouri. 4-4 Tennessee. 4-5 versus Mississippi State. 4-6 at Bama. Uh, 4-7 South Carolina. 5-7 Kent- no. Let's try to rethink this. Um, I think they win their first 4-0. I think they win against Florida, so 5-0 to start. They really have a weak opening schedule here, and then Georgia, 5-1, Missouri, 5-2, 5-3, 5-4, 5-5, 5-6, 6-6. I think probably is not crazy to think that they would go 6-6. I think when it comes to winnable games, they probably have two flippable games in the season there against obviously Florida and Missouri. But I'm really high on Missouri this season. Uh, they really have some good depth at the wide receiver position this year, so we'll see how they do. I think they're actually coming up here. Florida. I will say this now. I'm not very high on Florida at all. Like, I don't think they'll be good this year. I mean, they've been having problems with their NIL. Uh, they've had problems in general. I mean, this team does not look like a team that would be a legitimate like threat in the SEC East. They don't have a decent quarterback. They don't have a great defense, and I really don't see them making a bowl game this year. I don't think Billy Napier is a good coach. I just really do not see them being good. I just don't see it. I mean, really. Um, so they have the number one difficulty in schedule on here. So at Utah, loss. McNeese win 1-1. Versus Tennessee 1-2. 2-2. 3-2. 3-3. I see them losing to Vanderbilt. 3-4. 3-5. 3-6. 3-7. 3-8. 3-9. I mean, they have a difficult schedule. I mean, 3-9. That's where I have them at. And I mean, I see them having a ceiling about 5 wins, but this team is gonna have to hit the reset button eventually. Cause Billy Napier is not gonna cut it there. I'm sorry, but he's not. He really reminds me a lot of Brian Harsin in a lot of ways. Great at Louisiana, comes to Florida, underperforms the first year, and his second year is really going to be where it's like starting to question his leadership. Uh, so, under this tough schedule, I do not think they win that many games. Uh, I could definitely see them winning 5, 6 games, but nothing over that. All right. Next is Missouri. I will say this now. I'm very high on Missouri. Uh, I really wish that they would not start Brady Cook, but they're likely going to. And because of that, I don't really see their ceiling that high. I mean, I see Jake Garcia as being a better option there, and Sam Horn. I mean, Sam Horn, he's one of the. I'm extremely high on Mr. Horn. Um, Sam Horn, I think, is one of the most underrated like high school prospects from the 2022 class. Um, I could see him taking Missouri to the next level. I think he probably won't get to play this season, but next season I see him taking that job, and I see Missouri shooting up to the next level. Obviously, them barely being bowl eligible this year. I think their ceiling's probably about 8 wins with Drinkwitz there. Missouri, they're on fire in the recruiting trail, by the way. There's not a lot of teams that can beat them in the recruiting trail. But South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, Kansas State's their opening 3 games. I think they probably go 2-1 there. They win versus Memphis 3-1, Vanderbilt 4-1, 4-2 LSU, 5-2 Kentucky, 5-3 South Carolina, 5-4, 5-5, 6-5. I see them going 7-5 this year. Um, I think their ceiling's probably 9 wins, but when you look at how difficult their schedule is, I don't see them really winning a lot of flip games. So I feel like their ceilings are very limited this year when it comes to chances. But next year, you look at it, I mean, I really see them being really good in the future. All right, next up is the Vanderbilt Commodores. This is going to be the last team in our SEC East predictions. The Vanderbilt Commodores were 1 win away from being bowl eligible last year, and obviously losing Mike Wright to an injury, a bad injury too. But I see them really being good this year. I mean, I think I think they have a ceiling of 7 wins here in this very, very weak schedule. So they open Hawaii, Alabama A&M, win-win. Wake Forest, 3-0, 4-0, UNLV. Um, I'm gonna say 4-1 Kentucky, 4-2 Missouri, 4-3 Florida, 4-4 Georgia, 4-5 Mississippi, 4-6 Auburn, 4-7 South Carolina. Wait, no. I gotta have one upset in here at least. So I think they start the season 5-0. Um, I think they lose to Missouri. I think they win to Florida, get 6 wins. So 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4, 6-5, 6-6. I think they win 6 games, make a bowl. Uh, I think Clark Lee has really finally got this team going to the like the right side of the book in the SEC. So I mean, I really think they make a bowl game. I really do. I mean, they don't have a hard schedule. And I think flip games, when you think about it, they really could win their first 7 games here. One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, they could really win their first 7 games. Uh, they have Florida. The only games they have away is Wake Forest and UNLV, and Wake Forest is extremely weak this year. So I see them winning their first 4 definitely, but those 3 SEC games are extremely winnable, and I see them winning at least 2 of those, maybe 3. But starting out the season 7-0 would really be far-fetched. But I mean, you never know. With the start they had last season, uh, we could be in for a really, really exciting season for Vandy this year. So they beat Kentucky and Florida last year. So if they beat Missouri this year, they really could start off 7-0. I mean, I could see it happening. but after that, it's gonna be really, really tough. Um, but I see them right there. I mean, their schedule's weak, so I could see them winning their first seven. I mean, I really could. As far-fetched as it sounds, they have Kentucky, Missouri, Florida, and Wake Forest. That's the hard games they're gonna have. Everything else should be cupcake. But their second half of the season, Mississippi, Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee. I think those are probably losses. Georgia definitely lost, but um, yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good year for Vandy athletics. So, all right, so we have Georgia, number one in the SC East. I think they win the SC East, and they face who was it? Did I have them winning the last one? Okay, so Georgia versus Bama in the for the conference championship there, or LSU. I think I had LSU actually. So LSU and Georgia refacing off in that. Those are my predictions. Um, so Georgia 10-2, Tennessee 10-2, South Carolina 10-2, 6-6 for what team was it? Let me look here. 6-6 for Kentucky. 3-9 for Florida. 7-5 for Missouri. And 6-6 for Vandy. So, a good year, nonetheless, for the STEs, given the fact that the last couple of years, it's kind of been like only really one team that's been had a chance at the end. So, all right, so we're approaching the 30-minute mark here. So, uh, let's move on to a different bit of news here in college football. We're gonna talk about some different conferences actually. Um, so this year, I am really, really, really high on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Obviously, everybody has them behind the Buckeyes and, of course, the Michigan Wolverines. But when you really look here, they have the potential to be in that Big Ten East race here. I mean, Drew Aller, he's as good as any quarterback in the country, I think. And when you look at strength of schedule, I mean, they have a lot of winnable games on this schedule, and they have Michigan at home this year. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan is never going to be an easy game. And when you've really looked at it, um, since 2021, the only really games they've lost is Michigan and Ohio State, uh, not including obviously 2019, which they nearly made the college football playoffs, but dropped off there and by losing to Minnesota and then Ohio State. So, uh, I definitely could see them being potentially a candidate here in the Big Ten East to be like kind of a dark horse type of team and maybe even win the Big Ten East. I mean, that is an extremely hot take there, but I mean, look at it. This is probably going to be the once in a lifetime kind of year they have to have a chance. I mean, returning Katron Allen, really important there. They basically returned all their receiver production aside from Parker Washington. They returned Theo Johnson, so that's going to be big time for them. They only got better on the defensive end, so they got better. They got a better quarterback too. So Drew Aller, whew, man, that dude is like he's dripping with talent, and I feel like he has a chance to be even better than Sean Clifford was at Penn State. Obviously, no one's probably gonna break that career passing record that Sean Clifford set, having like 6 years to do it. So, um, but yeah, it's really, really up for the Penn State Nittany Lions this season, and I definitely have them on my dark horse list when it comes to valuable teams this year. All right. So next we are going to talk about, let's see here, what team was it? I just want to quickly talk about Florida State because they look really, really good this year. So I'm going to talk about them for a minute. So I was in a Twitter space yesterday, or the other day was it? Mr. Jack Crane was answering some questions. Shout out to him, by the way. Um, but I asked him about Florida State, and he says that he feels really, really good about Florida State's national championship hopes this season. So, not to like extremely get anybody hyped here, but I think it's time to get hyped for Florida State. I mean, seriously. They have everything you would look for in a good team here. Obviously, they're returning Johnny Wilson. That was like most of their receiving yards last season. They're obviously returning Akeem Dent. What's his name? The guy Jared Verse, who is, whew, man, that kid is talented. But Jordan Travis has the potential to win Heisman this year. I think honestly, I mean, it is not far-fetched to see them going undefeated this year. I mean, they have probably the weakest schedule in the ACC. Um, Obviously playing LSU in Orlando. So, I mean, when you think about that, that's a home game for them. So, I mean, the only really tough games on the schedule I see here for them is maybe Miami and Clemson. And obviously, LSU is going to be a tough one at the start of the season. But, I mean, I really don't see anybody even coming close to them this year, talent wise. But, I mean, you always want to watch out for Clemson. Obviously, they're going to be changing a lot this year with the new coordinator. But, Jordan Travis is setting up Florida State for success this year. They obviously got Cam Coleman. They're returning Jaheim Bell, or they got Jaheim Bell, and I mean they really had the best transfer class in the entire NCAA this year. So when you really look at it, they probably have 3 to 4 guys depth wise they can go to receiving wise. Most of this year, obviously they don't have Micah Pittman anymore, but I mean it's really up for Florida State this year, and obviously the conference talks, um, they're really heating up, given the fact that this year it's kind of like an SEC tryout year basically. Um, so if they go 11 wins, 10 wins this year, I think that really just makes the SEC even more interested in adding them in conference realignment time. Um, Obviously the SEC is going to make a move eventually, but I think Florida State's at the top of the list when it comes to uh, realignment there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really up for Florida State this year, so I see them being one of the best teams in the country. You can quote me on that because I think it's a guarantee that Florida State's going to be really good this year. Next, I want to talk about the Carolina Tar Heels. Um, so Devontae Walker, probably Blitnikoff award um guy. He got denied his waiver by the NCAA, so he won't be playing. So uh, it's really gonna be questionable at best how North Carolina succeeds this year without him. I think North Carolina is kind of one of those teams every year that's like kind of iffy on the edge every single year. Um, Obviously, Drake May is like one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country, obviously, but this is probably gonna be his last year for them, so they really need to. I mean, they need to make a immediate impact in the ACC if they want to win this thing. So I think they have a shot at the ACC when it comes to two teams, but I think they're lacking in the receiving department. Not having Josh Downs anymore, not having Antonio Green anymore. But other than that, they've returned basically everyone. They've never really been a great rushing team, so if they could be more of that, I think I I see them doing okay. I think 9 wins probably again is not crazy. But I see them maybe winning 10 games this year. All right, so let's see. Also in the ACC, Duke is going to be really interesting, given the fact that they won 9 games last season. Um, oh man, it is up for them. They're going to be a team to watch in the ACC this year. Let's see who to talk about now. Um, I want to just note Miami real quick. I think they'll be really interesting. They'll be a really interesting team talent-wise, but I don't know. I really don't see them doing that great. I mean, I don't. I just don't see them succeeding uh right now. So, tune into them because that's going to be one of the teams I look to have another disappointing season. All right, so moving on to the Big 12. Obviously, Texas is looking to really have their first big year in Steve Sarkisian's coaching career there. And I mean, they have a shot at it because I mean, they're returning Xavier Worthy, Jadavon Sanders. The only guy that they're not returning is Bijan Robinson. So, really, they have Cedric CJ Baxter, which is coming in a 5-star recruit, obviously. So, uh, look for the running game to return to the same. But when you really look at it, Texas, I mean, it's gonna be a tough year for them, man. I don't really see them winning 10 games. I'll see them winning 9 games, but nothing past that. All right, so we're approaching the 1 hour mark. So here in a little bit, we're gonna take a little bit of a break, and then we're gonna get back to it for a little bit longer. We're gonna talk about some NCAA basketball for a little bit and some NBA. But I want to continue here for just a moment before we take that little break in the action here. Obviously, last year, Kansas State was really surprising in a lot of ways. Um, Will Howard is going to be their quarterback once again. Uh, Obviously, they probably have the best shot at anyone to have winning the championship in the Big 12, but it's going to be really interesting to see how they do without Deuce Vaughn. Uh, Obviously he's gone, so their little speed threat that really makes them extra dangerous uh isn't there anymore. So they really lost a lot of their talent um in their team. So it's gonna be really interesting to see if they return and succeed the same way. Obviously, Chris Kleiman has them going in the right direction. But I don't know if I see them being the same team that they were last year. All right. So, everybody knows what TCU did last year with Max Duggan. Um, they were, let's say, probably the most out of nowhere team I've ever seen in my entire time watching football. I mean, they came out of nowhere, having not even made a bowl game since 2020. Um, it was really, really surprising that they came out of nowhere like that. But um, talent-wise, obviously Chandler Morris is probably going to be the starting quarterback this year, with Chase Nolan kind of behind there, and Josh Hoover. But I mean, talent-wise, they are not the same as they were last year. Obviously, Max Duggan isn't there anymore. Uh, they lost Quentin Johnson. They don't have Tay Barber. They don't have Darius Davis. They don't have Gunnar Henderson. So when you look at talent wise, they lost like half their team defensively and offensively. Obviously, not having Keandre Miller is gonna really affect them. Uh, Amari, their backup running back's not there anymore. Um, Hodges Tomlinson, their best corner, is not there no more. So I expect them to take a massive drop off. I could see them winning probably 7 games minimum, but I really just don't see it talent wise this year for TCU. Alright, so we're going to move on and talk about the Pac 12 here. Or actually, no. We're going to talk about Kansas because I feel like they deserve to be talked about here. Um, I feel like Kansas really has a chance to be better than they were even last year. I think they have a chance to win the Big 12, sorry. Uh, obviously Jalen Daniels is their lock at quarterback, obviously. Uh, having been hurt, um, Jalen Daniels may not be the same as he once was before, obviously running all over the place. Um, they returned Devin Neal, they returned Luke Grimm, they returned Lawrence Arnold. Uh, they honestly only got better. Uh, they made their first bowl game since frick. I mean, 2008, I think it was. Uh, and was ranked. So I mean, wow. I mean, it was a great turnaround for them. Like going undefeated at the start of the year, obviously dropping those last three. But the turnaround is really there for Lance Leapold, and I mean, I see them being as dangerous as anyone in the Big 12 this year. Uh, obviously having Devin Neal back is really going to help them. Luke Grimm, Quentin Skinner, Mason Fairchild. I mean, they returned everybody in that entire team basically. So, returning starters wise, they returned 49 players compared to the 16 they lost. So, I mean, it's gonna be really good season for Kansas, and I see them winning 9 games this year. I feel like they win against Missouri State, Illinois, Nevada, BYU, lose to Texas, win UCF, Oklahoma State win, Oklahoma win, Iowa State loss, Texas Tech loss, Kansas State loss, and win against Cincinnati. So I definitely see them winning about 9 games this year. And I mean, who knows? I mean, they could win the Big 12 this year. So, well, we'll just have to see this year how well Lance Leipold's offense can really advance here, as they're really just getting started. Alright, so let's move on here from the Big 12. And we are going to move on to the Pac 12. USC, I mean, obviously losing Jordan Addison, Travis Dye, so um, Caleb Williams is the reigning Heisman winner. Um, Obviously they have Malachi Nelson, so they got their next really Heisman type quarterback ready, sitting on the bench for next year. So this is gonna be probably a really good year for them. Uh, I think, I mean, talent wise, they're about the same. Defensive wise, man, it's rough. It's really rough to say how good a Pac-12's defense is going to be because they don't really face a lot of talent every year. I mean, the only team non-conference they really face is going to be San Jose State, Nevada, which, I mean, really, when you look at that, what's really that? I mean, Notre Dame, obviously, but I mean, when you really think about it, they're really not facing anybody but Notre Dame. Uh, at least non-Pac-12 wise, they obviously have Oregon, UCLA, Washington, Arizona, Arizona State, but I don't really see nobody touching them offensively wise, but defensively wise, that's really what's gonna keep other teams in the game. Cause I mean, I don't think they should have returned that defensive coordinator. I just don't think so. And they were one of the worst teams defensively wise in the entire nation. So I think next year or this year, uh, I think their defense struggles again, and I think they need to fire that defensive coordinator before it really becomes a problem. All right, everyone. So, we are going to pause this right now, um, and I will be back to talk for a little bit longer, and then we'll head out for the day. So, I'm gonna be gone for about maybe 15 minutes, and then we're gonna be back to it to finish this podcast episode. And yeah, so we will be back in 10. Well, I'll be back in 10. So I will see y'all guys then. All right. Alright, alright. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. Sorry about that break. Just had to get some water and stuff, but we are back and we are going to be talking about some NBA and NCAA basketball to finish this thing off. Obviously we're at the hour point now, so we don't have much time left, so let's make this very, just real quickly, let's just talk about some news here. Uh, I seen the announcement this morning that Josh Hart finally got paid. So he gets his bag at 81 million. Um Obviously he had a pretty decent season with the Knicks last year. I mean, they paid Dante DiVincenzo 50 million and they now pay Josh Hart 80 million. So, I mean, I really don't understand what's with throwing out these like role players just throwing them superstar money now. But it's probably because Jaylen Brown kind of reset the market. So now everything is just it's five times more like it's the money just goes higher and higher every single year. It just feels like, and I don't see that stopping for a while because with guys like Jason Tatum's extension coming up, obviously everyone from the 2019 class is gonna get their money. Ant got his money. Jason Tatum's due for a new extension. So when does it become a talking point that teams should kind of hold out a little bit? I mean, I know they gotta pay their superstars, and I feel like that's what Boston tried to do for a little bit, is just like kind of hold out. But eventually they caved and gave him 304 million, which I mean, I've said this before. Look, I know some people didn't like what I said about Jaylen Brown on my last episode, but I'm doubling down here. Jaylen Brown has no he has no like ceiling here. Well, he not really not a ceiling. He has the biggest ceiling. He has the lowest ceiling. I mean, if it feels like year after year the ceiling starts to just cave down on him because he just chokes in the playoffs every single year, just like Jason Tatum. And I mean, I'm gonna double down on this. I really don't think career-wise Jaylen Brown is better than guys like Paul George, Jay, uh, James Harden. I just don't see him being better than them career wise. I mean, I'm not talking right now. Obviously, he's miles over Fatty James Harden right now. Um, I mean, yeah, obviously, Mr. Fat Suit James Harden. He's washed. Honestly, I mean, really, he's really washed. And he wants his money so badly. He just wants to cry and cry about it, even though he's literally probably made 500 million in his career. So instead of wanting to win a national champion, sorry, an NBA Finals championship, he wants to cry and cry about his money and continue to be a absolute burden to every single team he's on instead of being a team player and not taking the absolute maximum money he can get just because he wants money. Instead of letting the team build around him and uh, Joel Embiid, he doesn't get his money and he requests a trade. He always runs from the grind. That is James Harden's career in a nutshell for you. Anytime he doesn't get his money, he requests a trade. Anytime he feels like, oh, well, I'm not getting the ball enough, he gets out of Dodge. So, obviously, I'm not trying to say that Jaylen Brown is worse than James Harden, Paul George, like, right now wise. I'm saying, like, career wise, if Jaylen Brown retired right now, I don't think he would be better than those two guys. So, don't get me misunderstood. Jaylen Brown's great, right? Obviously, he needs to work on his dribbling, but um, I don't see what's the issue with these contracts. I mean, they're just dealing out money and money and money, and it just keeps going up every single year. But yeah. So that's the news there. Josh Hart signs the 81 million extension for averaging 10 points a game. So yeah, that's where we're at in the NBA now. That role players get nearly 100 million. And someone like OG Awananobi is probably gonna get 120 million this next offseason. So yeah, look for that next offseason. Being excited for AJ Awananobi, someone who hasn't even averaged over 12 points in his career, to get probably $150 million contract. Um, so yeah, I've heard more reports about the Dame trade. Obviously, I talked about it the other day, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more here. Um, I personally don't think the deal's going to get done, but I have heard from some sources of mine saying that trades trade talks have finally resumed a little bit. So between the Miami Heat and between the Miami Heat, I don't really think there's any other team that could really get him. I mean, obviously that's really contract wise. Like, there's not really a lot of teams that could really afford Damian Lillard. Like, just not having enough money. Not even like having enough trade pieces. Because I think a team like the Knicks would probably be like have the biggest package for him. But again, they don't have anybody to match that contract. And I don't think they're willing to give up Julius Randle, Emmanuel Quickly, and Josh Hart. So I doubt that could happen. So the really only landing spot I could see from them is matching that Lillard contract with the Tyler Hero contract, and giving away some of your bench players like Duncan Robinson. And obviously the Blazers will have to probably put in one guy to make the trade valid. Probably their first round picks and maybe some seconds. And I think that's how this deal gets done. But I think any other way, I don't think it's gonna happen. So when you think about it, it's probably not gonna happen this season. I think Damian Lillard eventually caves and just plays. But until the Blazers uh can trade him, I think this is a lose-lose situation for both players. So, all right. So moving on from the Damian Lillard and Jaylen Brown stuff I was talking about, um, let's talk about some NFL. I didn't change no ticker stuff for the NFL, so I can't put that up right now. So I'll just put it up there. But so obviously the NFL season's getting in full swing, soon, and the Rookie of the Year race is always something that's going to be like one of the most important things in the NFL season. Um, Rookie of the Year odds wise, I really don't know who's gonna win Rookie of the Year. Uh, I think probably not being so crazy here. I think Bryce Young and Bijan Robinson and C.J. Stroud are probably gonna be the simplest picks here for Rookie of the Year. Um, I mean, I always think I'm always open to like having maybe a receiver in there and maybe like a couple more quarterbacks. But I don't know. I think the dark horse candidate is Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. No tight end's ever won the Rookie of the Year award, but I think he's definitely a little bit of a dark horse there. I think Anthony Richardson's in there. I think Jordan Addison's in there. But I think probably the most likely is probably going to be Bijan Robinson, um, Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud. So um, I don't I don't think it's too big of a like class here that you say, oh, maybe 10 guys can win it. I think probably it's limited to probably about five. So we'll just we'll just see how we'll just have to see how that goes. Um, but I mean, we'll find out soon enough who is the best. Obviously, I'm a Falcons fan, So I've been through a lot. I really want Bijan to be the rookie of the year candidate here, but at the same time, when you pick a running back at eighth, I mean, uh, it's kind of you're kind of expected to win rookie of the year. So, all right, just some quick NFL talk there. So I'm gonna move on to some NCAA basketball. I just want to talk about this, note this real quick. Um, I've been hearing some different things about Flory Bidunga, but one of them is that he may not be a Duke lock, and I'm gonna have someone on here, hopefully in a couple of days, to give me more info on that. But I wouldn't, if Auburn fan wise, still wouldn't feel great about it because I don't think we're in the top three for him. I mean, obviously we're in the top four for him. I don't think we're top three for him right now, but I've definitely been hearing some things, and I don't think those things are for nothing. I mean, obviously there's got to be a reason why people are saying this. So, I'm going to get with someone, I'm going to talk with them, and I'm going to see what they have to say about it because right now it's kind of just like I've just seen some stuff on message boards and everybody's just kind of freaking out about it a little bit. So, uh just um I'm just questioning now if he's still a Duke lock or maybe there's more to the story there. But I'll have someone on here in a couple days to hopefully before Saturday because that's when he commits. So maybe tomorrow I'll try to have someone on to, clear up that a little bit to see what's going on there. Obviously, I'm very limited to my resources of who I can get, but I have a couple guys that I'm real good in with that could maybe explain it to me a little bit more. So, stay tuned for that. But college basketball wise, obviously, we're what less than 100 days away from the season now. I think so. I think that's what I counted. But obviously discussion wise, Alabama and Auburn obviously are always going to be in the discussions for the SEC. Uh Kentucky, they pulled like one of the greatest recruiting classes I've ever seen talent wise. Um I don't know if they're gonna win anything this year. And it's just really disappointing because we've expected Coach Cal to pull like maybe a championship or two with these recruiting classes he's been getting. But obviously the upsets, obviously Oral Roberts, uh maybe I'm mistaken, but I think it was Oral Roberts when you that upset them. And obviously this year, um disappointing year for them, disappointing end, losing in the second round. But I mean, just talent wise, they just really they haven't been the same. They haven't had that one guy that's like, oh my gosh, this dude is one of the best guys I've ever seen in college basketball. Oscar Tshiebwe was not that. I mean, I'm sorry, but he just wasn't that. He wasn't that dominant player that could just put up 40 points in a random freaking game. He just wasn't that for Kentucky, and I don't I don't know who that would be this year. I mean, I would say over anybody, probably what's his name? Forgot his name. I'm trying to think here. He's a five-star recruit. I'll just have to look at the recruiting class real quick, but um Rob Dillingham, DJ Wagner, uh, those are probably going to be the guys that's most likely to like succeed for them. I mean, obviously, like I said, they pulled like one of the best recruiting classes I've ever seen in my entire life, being like number one in the nation easily. Aaron Bradshaw, Justin Edwards, Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, Brooks, and Obviously, getting Trey Mitchell as a transfer was pretty nice, but um, I just this is honestly a make or break year for Coach Cal, and uh, with the talent in the SEC these last couple of years, I really don't know if he can get it done. Because, I mean, it really just seems to me like his system is just getting old. It's just kind of expiring almost. Uh, and I don't know if I see that getting any better anytime soon. Um, Obviously, SEC basketball wise, I see Texas A&M being a problem this year. I see Alabama. I see Auburn. I see South Carolina being a little bit better this year. Um, I'm not really sure how deep we go here, SEC basketball wise, but I think Missouri will be okay. I think Arkansas will be really, really good. Um, Tennessee's obviously going to be a problem every year. Um, I think Ole Miss is a team that not many people are talking about here. Obviously Chris Beard getting the coaching job there. I feel like, I mean, he's really made an impact there already so far. So we'll just have to see how that goes for them. And as college basketball gets closer and closer, we'll talk about it more. But right now, there's just not really a lot of news to talk about there. But obviously, as I said, I'll try to get someone on here to clear up the Flory Badunga stuff because I personally, other than reading message boards on Auburn Undercover, I really don't know how much is really like there to be concerned about for Duke. But anyways, that's probably gonna do it for this stream. As we get closer and closer to the college football season, I'm going to be putting more and more predictions in. Obviously, I'll put in my SEC predictions finalized. It's gonna be LSU and Georgia in the SEC championship for me. That's who I have. Um, um, but yeah, as we get closer and closer, I will be giving more and more predictions. Tomorrow I will probably try to do more Big Ten predictions. Obviously, I talked about a little bit of my dark horse candidates for like college football. But we'll definitely have a guest on here soon. Um, to just discuss some college football with us and just have a good time on here. Obviously, at the end of the day, for this, it's fun. So just I'll definitely be giving more of my predictions soon, probably tomorrow. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. I'll probably be doing a 1 o'clock stream, so look out for that. But for now, I will be signing off. Your host, Griffin King. I will see you guys next time.